Okay guys, today we're going to be watching another video. This is the ending, because I'm gonna get but next time it's gonna be okay. Sorry. What's that about China? Is that trying to get us coronavirus?
Hi there, my name is Jessica, and I'm a real constructed girl. This is not because of my love for Legos, and not because I look like my dad with the lower part of my body and like my mom with the upper part of my body. The fact is that I've had 8 transplant operations of certain organs and limbs, and that's why I confidently call myself constructed. It so happened that being a child, I didn't play with dolls or balls a lot. I was completely and utterly obsessed with Legos, and even my family and friends knew that very well, that I didn't need any other gifts except of building blocks for the holidays. But I also had another strange passion. When I was presented with dolls, I quickly found a use for them and changed their body parts with one another. As a result, I got some kind of dino dolls and Ken Barbie-saurs. The point is that now I myself turned into one of them because I consist of organs and limbs of 8 different people. It all started with the fact that at the age of about 7 years old, I had a severe allergy, but no one could understand what the allergen was. It got to the point that I was choking, losing consciousness, and became swollen so much that I couldn't even open my eyes. And only 6 months later was it possible to understand what the problem was. It turned out that I have an autoimmune disease, and my body rejected its own kidneys. Not just rejected, but ready to kill itself, just not to exist next to them. And then the board of doctors decided that it was necessary to urgently extirpate the organ that hated my body before it was too late. I couldn't live without kidneys, so I needed a donor. Doctors warned that the new organs may also not be taken, and then the consequences would be very sad. There was no choice anyway, and I had decided to take my chance. At that time, my dad was a kidney donor for me. The operation was effective, and I was sure that now I would finally be able to pick up the threads and this nightmare would be over. Well, that's how it was, but not for long, because about a year later, I started having new problems. I had another allergy, and it was obvious that the cause was somewhere inside of me. Most of all, I was afraid that it was the rejection of the transplanted kidney. But during the examination, it turned out that the reality was no less terrible. My body began to reject its own liver. I had been sobbing all the time, and I was literally in despair because the period when a new organ is being taken is very terrible and painful. I really didn't want to go through it again. Soon the doctor said that unfortunately there was no alternative, and again there were risks that my body wouldn't accept the new organ. In short, everything was the same as last time. That time, neither my mom nor my dad were suitable as donors, but my uncle was perfect. Fortunately, he agreed to donate a piece of his liver for me without hesitation. Why a piece? Because the liver regenerates well and builds itself up. Soon there was a second operation, and it took me about a year to recover. Yes, it was hell, but I did it and was happy that I continue to live and see the world. But as you might have already guessed, the epic wasn't over yet, and soon I was one by one transplanted an arm, a leg, a small bowel, and a pancreas gland. The doctors were surprised at how other people's organs became closer to me than my own, and the fact that a person is able to go through so many transplant operations at all. I was also shocked, but by something quite different. As you might have already guessed, after kidney and liver, all the other organs were transplanted to me not from relative donors, and therefore I would have to wait for them in turn for more than a year. This meant certain death for me. The fact is that my parents and I decided to immigrate to another country where organ transplant operations are easier and faster, and it's the country where I experienced the next 4 operations. You may wonder what a big deal that is. The fact is that each transplant operation costs an incredible amount of money. And if my parents were able to pay for the first one by selling all of our property, then for the next 3 we had no money at all. So we had to appeal to a charitable foundation, which opened fundraising for me. But I need hardly say, collecting an amount with 6 zeros is not a quick matter, and such fundraising took at least 6 months. But not in my case. A certain anonymous person transferred money to the transplantations for me as soon as the fundraising started. One and the same person paid for 4 operations, and I didn't even know his or her name. And try as I and my parents might, we couldn't find out the name of the anonymous person. Everybody answered that the benefactor asked not to be named. The employees of the fund said that they had never seen anything like it. Yes, there were businessmen who paid for part of the operation for someone, or simply transferred a large amount to the name of the foundation and not for a specific person. But something like this, to pay for the operation to the same needy person 4 times and immediately after the fundraising was opened, is nonsense. It was obvious that either I was very sympathetic to the benefactor or something else. But at first, it wasn't very important for me because, first of all, I was extremely grateful to him, just like my parents. Still, I wanted to thank him personally because I owe that person my life. Time passed by, and then I already accepted the fact that I wouldn't be destined to find out the name of my savior. About 8 months after the last operation, a new rejection started again. This time, my body rejected my eye cornea. It was scary and terrible because I was afraid to go blind. You almost lost your life 6 times, and then you are bothered with your eyesight, you ask? Yes, I have already said that I love this world and it's very important for me to be able to see. I'm a visual learner by nature, so losing my eyesight is more scary for me than losing my life. When the next fundraising was opened, the anonymous person again paid 100% of the operation, and soon I had a cornea transplant. The first few days I had bandages on my eyes and I didn't see anything, but my mother was next to me, so I was calm. However, one day my mother went home to get some things and didn't return for a long time. I was already beginning to worry when I heard that someone had entered my room. Those were definitely not my mom's steps, and I thought it was a doctor or a nurse, so I just waited for when this person would prove himself. I heard when he sat on the chair opposite my bed, and I felt his eyes on me, but there was still silence in the ward, and I felt uneasy. Then I heard a man's voice, which began his story in a soft tone. 18 years ago, my daughter was born.